All right, guys. So, story's called Harrison Bergeron. So the first question we want to ask ourselves before we start reading is, how does technology change our lives right now? Think about that. How does technology change our lives? Go ahead. You have to talk out loud. I can't read your mind.
We get you to look up stuff on it. We can see the information of what you're doing.
Perfect. So we can look stuff up on the internet. What about social media? Think about your social media. How does technology change your life with social media?
You can connect with other people.
You can connect through other people. Through what? What do we use to social media? Snapchat. What else? Facebook. Instagram. Exactly. So think about this. When you're scrolling through Facebook in particular, think about the ads that you see on the side of your Facebook. What are they like?
Naughty.
That concerns me. Okay, think about it. Are they typically things that you've already looked up before? For example, if you love Nike shoes and you constantly are on the Nike website, Nike ads show up on the side of the Facebook. Okay, do we know what that's called?
No.
Okay, it is called an echo chamber. So what Facebook has done is they pay to have your search history, and then they show you ads related to your search history. So for example, Reed might spend his time looking up cows and different steers and stuff like that. I'm never going to Google that stuff. So he might have ads for farm stuff, while I'll have ads for stuff about dog stuff. Okay? So, what would happen if our technology could completely read our minds? Would it be a good thing or a bad thing?
Bad.
Bad. Why bad?
I mean,
That's
because
all of our
maybe
information.
they can...
Yeah, they have all your information, right? Well, think about this. When you open Facebook and it says, how are you feeling today? Or, you want to go post a status. What if it automatically posted what you were thinking about before you could stop it?
That'd be horrible.
That'd be horrible, right? Because everybody would know everything you're thinking.
I've been
Okay.
think of some stuff.
What does it mean to be equal?
Everyone's like the same.
Everyone's like the same.
And they get treated the same.
And they get treated the same. Is our society truly equal?
No.
No, absolutely not, okay? Would it be important for everyone to always be treated equally?
Yes.
You think that should happen?
No.
Okay. Yes, no? We'll talk about it more, okay? Is competition good or bad? You can think sports, school. Why is it good?
Because competition.
Because you don't want to always be the same all the time.
You're not perfect.
Not perfect, pushes you, right? What else, Michael?
Normally, it could be fun or not.
Yeah, it makes things more enjoyable, right? You don't want to just sit there and do nothing for no reason, right? You don't want to be, honestly, who likes to go out running? But when you're racing somebody else, it's a lot more fun, enjoyable, right? All right, so go ahead and grab your story out. So Harrison Bergeron, and we'll get started. We'll stop every few sentences. We're going to look at those sentence starters and see if we can answer some questions, okay? Hold on. Okay. The year was 2081, and everybody was finally equal. They weren't only equal before God and the law, but they were equal in every way. Nobody was smarter than anybody else. Nobody was better looking than anybody else. Nobody was stronger or quicker than anybody else. All of this equality was due to the 211th, 212th, and 213th Amendments to the Constitution and the unceasingly vigilance of agents of the United States Handicapper General. So how can we relate this to things we already know about? Think about Miss Blashfield's class. What do we already know about the Constitution?
It's just a bunch of rules.
It's a bunch of rules, right? So we can apply this that they've made rules about everyone being the same. Exactly. Some things about living still weren't quite right, though. April, for instance, still drove people crazy by not being springtime. And it was that clammy month that the HG men took George and Hazel's 14-year-old son, Harrison, away. It was all tragic, all right, but George and Hazel couldn't think about it very hard. Hazel had perfectly average intelligence, which means she couldn't think about anything except for in short bursts. And George, while his intelligence was way above normal, had a mental handicap radio in his ear. It was required by law to wear at all times. It was tuned to the governmental transmitter. Every 20 seconds or so, the transmitter would send out sharp noises to keep people like George from taking unfair advantage of their brains. What are we thinking? It's a strange story, right? So what goes on when you have an intelligent thought?
They like
Yeah, they zap you in your ear. What other stories are kind of like this, where you get punished for being intelligent or not going exactly with what the government wants? Think about movies and stories.
Divergent.
What one?
Divergent.
Divergent, perfect example. What other one? Transformers. Heartland. Explain that.
I don't know.
You don't know?
They don't have anything
Okay,
bad enough.
so
It's like a
Divergent,
movie.
right? We see a society that's falling apart and people are pushing back against the government. That's a really great example. Think about Maze Runner.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can relate this to stories where we see a dystopian society. Do we know what dystopian means? Failing society, okay? One that's fractured. Utopia means perfect, dystopia, imperfect.
What about Zootopia?
Zootopia, exactly. There's a great connection. So, a perfect animal world, right? So, George and Hazel were watching television. There were tears on Hazel's cheeks, but she had forgotten for a moment what they were about. On the television screen were ballerinas. A buzzer sounded in George's head. Bzzz. His thoughts fled in panic, like bandits from a burglar alarm. That was a real pretty dance. That dance they just did, said Hazel. Huh? Said George. That dance was nice, said Hazel. Yep, said George. He tried to think a little about the ballerinas. They weren't very good. They were no better than anybody else would be anyway. They were burdened with sash weights and bags of birdshot. What's birdshot?
A thing you put in a gun.
Okay, what's it made of? Do you know?
Yeah, the shell.
Lead. And there are these tiny little lead balls. So what they do is they tie people who are stronger with bags of birdshot to make them slow down, to weigh them down, okay? So you have a